Don't fight back. Control in silence. Because when you react, you reveal. When you stay still, you terrify. The weak fight to prove themselves. The powerful manipulate outcomes without ever lifting a finger. You don't need to scream to command attention. You don't need to fight to win. You need precision, restraint, and the art of psychological warfare. This is not about peace. It's about power disguised as calm. When they expect rage, you give them silence. When they expect weakness, you show calculation. Every move you make should make them second-guess their own. Welcome to Machiavellian mode. Comment below. I control by staying silent. Because this is where we build men who don't react. They orchestrate. Now listen carefully and learn to outsmart, control, and dominate without saying a single word. Number 1, the power of stillness. Power doesn't always move. Sometimes it waits. Stillness is not inaction. It's calculation in disguise. Every great manipulator, every ruler who commanded loyalty and fear understood this truth. The man who doesn't react holds the world in his grip. When you stay still, they project their own fears onto your silence. They wonder what you're thinking, what you're planning, and that uncertainty becomes your weapon. Most men crumble because they can't bear the discomfort of silence. They rush to explain, defend, justify. You observe. You let their emotions expose their weaknesses. The Machiavellian mind never wastes energy on noise. It absorbs, measures, and then strikes with surgical precision. Stillness is the art of domination through perception. The illusion that you're unmoved, untouched, unbothered. It makes you unpredictable. It makes you untouchable. Comment below. My silence is my weapon. Every time you resist reacting, you shift the balance of power in your favor. The louder they become, the stronger your silence grows. Remember, kings don't argue with peasants. They let silence do the killing. Hold your stillness like a blade hidden behind a calm smile. Because true power doesn't shout. It watches, waits, and decides when to strike. Number 2, emotional control. The invisible throne. Control begins where emotion ends. The moment you let anger, jealousy, or pride dictate your actions, you've handed your enemies the strings to your mind. Emotional control isn't suppression. It's mastery. It's the ability to feel everything, but reveal nothing. The Machiavellian doesn't deny emotion. He studies it, weaponizes it, and turns it into leverage. When others rage, he calculates. When others panic, he plots. Every emotional outburst from those around you is a broadcast of their weaknesses. Listen carefully because they're handing you the blueprint to their destruction. Power isn't in being liked. It's in being unreadable. The man who controls his emotions commands the emotional landscape of every room he enters. You can make people beg for your approval simply by staying composed when they expect chaos. They will fear disappointing you because your calm becomes a mirror reflecting their instability. The art of control is to remain unmoved while everyone else burns. They'll call you cold, heartless, detached, good. Those are the words of the powerless. They mistake emotional control for emptiness, but it's the opposite. It's the presence of immense power contained within discipline. You're not suppressing emotion. You're channeling it, refining it, using it to construct an aura of unbreakable authority. When people can't predict your reaction, they lose their footing. Uncertainty breeds obedience. The emotionally volatile seek validation. The emotionally disciplined attract reverence. You're not meant to be relatable. You're meant to be formidable. Remember this, your calm is your kingdom. Guard it, protect it from every provocation, every petty insult, every attempt to lure you into emotional warfare. You win by not reacting, by staying seated on your invisible throne while others destroy themselves, trying to reach you. Comment below. I rule myself before I rule the world because power starts within. And the man who owns his emotions owns the battlefield. Number 3, the art of psychological positioning. Power is never taken, it's positioned. Psychological positioning is the art of making others orbit around your gravity without them realizing it. You don't chase influence, you construct it through perception. Every move, every silence, every glance must communicate one message: you are in control. The Machiavellian understands that humans crave certainty, and he becomes that certainty in a chaotic world. He stands still while others chase approval, and in that stillness, he becomes the center of stability that everyone gravitates toward. Positioning is about crafting an image so controlled, so deliberate that people adjust their behavior to align with you. Never lower yourself to meet others' emotions. Force them to rise to meet your composure. Subtly create an imbalance where they seek your validation, your attention, your approval, while you give them fragments. The mind loves what it can't fully possess. That's how you create obsession, loyalty, and fear all at once. Control the narrative by controlling how you're perceived. Speak less, but when you do, make every word sound like a verdict. Move with calm, certainty, and they'll assume you know something they don't. Let them fill the silence with their own insecurity. That's psychological dominance. When they argue with themselves in your presence, every powerful figure in history understood the theater of perception. Machiavelli advised princes to appear virtuous while being ruthless. You must appear calm while being calculating. The illusion is the weapon and your composure is the armor. When you master positioning, people will defend your name without you asking. They will protect your interests without realizing, and they will compete for your acknowledgement like pawns seeking relevance on your board. Comment below. I command through presence, not pursuit. Remember, power doesn't shout for attention. It makes attention a natural consequence of existence. The true master never steps forward. He makes the world lean closer to hear him. Number 4. The power of detachment. Detachment is the highest form of control because the man who needs nothing cannot be controlled by anyone. The Machiavellian mind operates above the tides of emotion, approval, and attachment. Detachment is not indifference. It's supremacy over desire. It's knowing that people, money, opportunities, and even respect are tools, not lifelines. The detached man walks into every situation ready to walk away, and that readiness makes him untouchable. Dependence breeds weakness. Attachment breeds vulnerability. The moment you need something or someone, you give them the power to manipulate you. But when you can watch it all burn and remain calm, you become a man others fear to play with. Detachment is what allows you to move strategically, not emotionally. You observe, assess, and act only when it serves your purpose. The world is full of men chasing validation, clinging to relationships, begging for recognition. They're slaves wrapped in pride. You must be the opposite. You must become a shadow that cannot be bribed or broken. Detachment doesn't mean isolation. It means freedom. It means being fully involved, yet entirely unbound. You can influence without being influenced, lead without being attached to the outcome, and command loyalty without begging for it. When people realize you don't need them, they try harder to earn your attention. That's the paradox of power. Indifference attracts what desperation repels. The detached man is unpredictable because nothing can provoke him. Insults, betrayal, failure. He absorbs them, refines them into knowledge, and moves forward without bitterness. He doesn't chase revenge, because revenge reveals attachment. He simply removes his energy, and that void becomes their punishment. This is how you dominate silently. You make absence louder than presence. You don't prove a point, you become the point. Detachment is the core of cold power. It turns every potential loss into leverage and every betrayal into information. Learn to stand alone in the storm with a calm mind and a steady pulse. That's where true confidence is born. Comment below. I'm owned by nothing, and that's my strength. Because when nothing holds you emotionally hostage, every move you make is deliberate, clean, and unstoppable. Detachment isn't coldness. It's ultimate self-command, the foundation of an unshakable empire. Number 5. Mastering the game of influence. Influence isn't about persuasion. It's about silent control. The greatest manipulators never force obedience. They make people want to follow. Mastering influence is understanding that human beings are predictable machines driven by ego, fear, and validation. The Machiavellian doesn't fight these impulses, he orchestrates them. He feeds pride when it serves him, withholds approval when it strengthens his leverage, and gives recognition only to keep loyalty alive. Influence begins with observation, reading people like maps of insecurity. Everyone reveals what drives them if you listen long enough. The fool talks, the strategist listens. Study their tone, their habits, their vanity. What do they crave? Attention, validation, power. Use that craving as the lever. To control A man, you must speak to the illusion he believes about himself. Let him think he's leading while you guide his direction invisibly. The greatest control is when someone defends your agenda, thinking it's their own idea. Influence is built on contrast. Show restraint where others show emotion, clarity where others show confusion, and stability where others show chaos. People will anchor themselves to you for guidance. That's when you begin shaping reality. You don't argue, you suggest, you don't demand, you imply, you don't overpower, you redirect. Like a chess master, you see the board from above while everyone else reacts to the last move. Never tell people what to do. Make them believe it was their choice all along. The secret is psychological. Mirroring. Reflect their values. Echo their tone and slowly align their perspective with yours. Once they feel understood, they open their defenses. Once they trust you, they follow willingly. And when they follow, they depend. Dependence is influence's hidden crown. It gives you the ability to lead without resistance. But influence is not emotional manipulation. It's strategic persuasion. The Machiavellian uses it to achieve results, not to feed his ego. Influence without purpose is chaos. Influence with direction becomes empire building. Always remain detached from the people you influence. Never fall for your own charm or the loyalty of your pawns. Power changes people, especially those beneath you. So stay aware, stay cold, stay watching. The moment you become sentimental, you lose control of the strings you once pulled. Influence is a delicate art. It rewards patience and punishes impulse. Let others chase followers. You build influence that outlasts attention. Comment below. I move the world without being seen, because that's the highest form of control, to shift reality, reshape perception, and make others act according to your design while believing it was entirely their will. Influence is the invisible empire of the Machiavellian mind. Number 6. The strategy of psychological warfare. Psychological warfare is the art of making your enemies destroy themselves while you watch from the shadows. It's not about confrontation. It's about corrosion. The Machiavellian mind knows that fear, confusion, and doubt are more powerful than any sword or shout. You don't need to win every battle. Just make your opponent question if fighting you is worth it. Warfare of the mind begins with perception. You plant seeds, not swords. You let ideas grow like poison vines in their psyche until they can no longer tell what's true and what's imagined. You control the narrative by controlling what they believe about you, sometimes appearing weak to draw out arrogance, sometimes appearing indifferent to disarm aggression. The master strategist knows that power isn't in reacting, but in orchestrating reactions. When you control how others feel around you, you control their decisions. Most people are emotional chess pieces. They move by impulse, pride, and fear of loss. You, however, must remain the invisible player who sees 5 moves ahead. Your calmness is a weapon. Your unpredictability is armor. The more they try to read you, the more they expose themselves. Psychological warfare is not cruelty. It's precision. It's creating situations where your adversary hands you victory without realizing it. You manipulate environment, timing, and silence to corner them into self-sabotage. You let their own ego do the damage for you. When they expect confrontation, give them calmness. When they expect mercy, give them silence. The uncertainty becomes unbearable, and in that space of confusion, they lose composure. Power in this game is never loud. It's surgical. Every pause, every delayed response, every unread message becomes a calculated strike. You are teaching their subconscious that you are untouchable, unpredictable, and therefore dangerous. Never reveal your intentions. Confuse through consistency. Be polite yet distant, helpful yet unreadable. This duality fractures the mental stability of those who wish to challenge you. They can't hate what they can't define. Once doubt seeps in, resistance collapses. The key is patience. The fool seeks quick victory. The Machiavellian builds psychological traps that unfold over time. You use truth mixed with deception, emotion mixed with logic. You make your targets question whether opposing you benefits them at all. The ultimate move in psychological warfare is to become indispensable. Make them believe they need you more than you need them. That's when you hold complete dominion without confrontation. Influence their fears and you own their choices. Exploit their pride and you own their downfall. Every word, every look, every withdrawal should be designed to shift the emotional temperature of the environment. You're not fighting the person, you're rewiring their perception of you. A single well-timed silence can cause more chaos than 1,000 words. The goal is simple. Dismantle certainty. Make them doubt their understanding of you, their judgment, and eventually themselves. The greatest victory is psychological. Collapse disguised as their own decision. People destroy themselves not because you force them, but because you lead them to believe it was their choice. That is elegance. That is control. The master of psychological warfare never shows emotion, because emotion reveals attachment and attachment reveals weakness. You observe the battlefield like a chessboard of mines, never breaking formation. You let others burn their energy trying to expose you while you stay still, letting time do your work. Patience becomes the blade that cuts through arrogance. Never rush a mind that is already decaying under its own pressure. The Machiavellian watches, waits, and then moves only once, decisively, cleanly, and without remorse. That's why your silence terrifies. That's why your calm presence unnerves, because deep down they sense what they can't explain. You are operating on a level beyond emotional warfare. You are rewriting the rules of engagement. Comment below, "My silence breaks empires." Remember this, the strongest warriors don't swing swords. They rearrange realities. Psychological warfare is not about chaos for its own sake. It's about shaping outcomes through invisible influence. You don't argue. You direct the current. You don't fight. You position. You don't destroy. You let them destroy themselves. That's the Machiavellian code. Never react. Never rush. Never reveal. Only control quietly and absolutely. Number 7, the power of silence and presence. Silence is the purest form of power because it cannot be countered, predicted, or manipulated. When you master silence, you transcend the noise of ordinary men. Most people fear silence because it forces them to confront their own weakness, their need to fill every moment with meaningless words, explanations, and validation. The Machiavellian, however, uses silence as a weapon, as a mirror, and as a cloak. It is not emptiness. It is tension controlled. When you remain silent, others rush to fill the void. They reveal themselves, fears, insecurities, motives without realizing they're exposing their entire strategy. Silence disarms because it unsettles. People interpret your quiet as judgment, superiority, or calculation. They project their own guilt or inferiority onto it. The less you speak, the more powerful your words become. A single phrase delivered with precision after a long pause carries the weight of authority. Silence amplifies presence. It creates an aura that demands attention without asking for it. True presence is when your energy speaks, louder than your voice. You enter a room and without a word, people feel your gravity. That's not luck. That's cultivated control. Presence is the echo of inner dominance. It's built through discipline, through owning your body language, your gaze, your posture. Every movement must express calm confidence and restrained aggression. The silent man holds the advantage because people can't predict his boundaries. They fear crossing a line they can't see. That fear becomes respect. Presence is not about being noticed. It's about being felt. You communicate dominance not by speaking more, but by speaking last. You let others exhaust themselves, proving their worth while you measure, observe, and decide. Silence also gives you time. Time to think, to analyze, to calculate your next move with precision. Words are commitments. Silence is freedom. Once spoken, words can be used against you, twisted, misunderstood. But silence cannot be refuted. It lingers, it haunts, it controls. The Machiavellian uses it to shift dynamics, to make others question their own understanding. When you don't respond immediately, people panic. They replay conversations. They doubt their position. They adjust their tone when approaching you again. That's psychological gravity. You're training their subconscious to treat your attention as a privilege. The key is balance. Silence without intention is emptiness, but silence with purpose becomes power incarnate. You must know when to speak just enough to maintain authority, then retreat into stillness to reinforce it. Never explain, never justify, never over-elaborate. Explanations are for the guilty. Brevity is for the powerful. Every silence should serve a purpose, sometimes to intimidate, sometimes to mislead, sometimes to draw information. The goal is always control. When people start to interpret your silence as dominance, you've already won. You've made them talk themselves into submission. Presence, like silence, must be sharpened daily. It's built through solitude, self-awareness, and mental discipline. A man who spends time in silence with himself learns how to project silence onto others. That's why solitude is sacred for the Machiavellian. It strengthens the aura that no external chaos can break. The more you learn to enjoy silence, the more unbearable your absence becomes to others. Comment below. My silence commands the room. Because silence is not weakness. It's the shadow of mastery. It is the quiet storm before the decisive strike. It's the invisible throne from which real power is exercised. When you speak like you already decided the or outcome. When you're silent, make them believe you're thinking 3 moves ahead. Words can be argued with, but silence cannot be challenged. It dominates without confrontation, conquers without conflict, and rules without exposure. This is the essence of cold power. Not to speak louder than others, but to make others lower their voices in your presence. Number 8, calculated manipulation. The science of subtle control. Manipulation, when understood correctly, is not deceit. It is direction. It is the ability to steer minds and outcomes without visible resistance. The invisible hand that reshapes perception while maintaining the illusion of choice. The Machiavellian man doesn't manipulate for ego or chaos. He manipulates for order, for control, for power that cannot be taken because it is woven into the fabric of others. Thinking, he knows that people crave validation more than truth, security more than freedom, and the feeling of importance more than success itself. To control people, you simply give them what they already desire, but on your terms. You don't fight their nature. You guide it. Every person is driven by emotion, even those who swear by logic. And once you learn to read those emotions, you hold the remote control to their behavior. This is the science of subtle control. Observe everything. Speak little and design every interaction as a move in a psychological chess game. Listen to what they don't say. The pauses, the hesitations, the tone that betrays desire or fear. When you understand what people want to believe, you can shape what they do. Believe. That is how rulers lead nations, how leaders control crowds, how individuals command loyalty without demanding it. To master manipulation, you must first master patience. Impulsiveness destroys strategy. The manipulator waits, listens, gathers information, and lets others reveal their weaknesses while thinking they are safe. When you know their patterns, you can feed them illusions that lead them exactly where you want them to go. Give them choices that all serve your interest and let them celebrate their freedom as they march into your plan. That is pure power. To make others act against you impossible because they're Benefit seems tied to your success. Always remain calm, agreeable, humble on the surface. The deadliest predators hide behind empathy, not aggression. Make them feel understood. Once people trust you emotionally, they obey you unconsciously. You're not deceiving them, you're guiding them. Emotional manipulation isn't shouting or coercion. It's gentle redirection through tone, timing, and presence. You build connection, then quietly shape the narrative. And when they start believing that you're the one who truly sees them, they stop questioning your influence. That is when control becomes effortless. But never forget, manipulation must remain invisible. Once they know they're being guided, the illusion breaks and their pride turns to resistance. The master manipulator never explains, never argues, never defends. He lets perception do the work. When accused, remain calm. The truth doesn't matter. Belief does. Redirect attention, shift. Emotion and people will forget the facts. Humans are not logical creatures. They are storytellers seeking comfort in the narrative that flatters them most. Feed that need, and you own their loyalty. You can turn enemies into allies, threats into tools, and opposition into silence. Remember, every favor is a chain, every compliment a hook, every act of generosity an investment in power. Influence through debt, not demand. Make them feel like they owe you their success and they'll destroy anyone who threatens you. Yet, stay detached. Never believe your own illusion. You are not their friend. You are their compass. Cold, patient, and aware. That's the Machiavellian way to control, not by domination, but by orchestration. The best manipulation is not to convince people you're right. It's to make them forget there was ever another way to think. Comment below. I don't control people. I control perception. Because perception is reality, and reality belongs to those who can shape it. Manipulation is not evil. It's evolution. It's the art of directing the chaos of human emotion toward your chosen design. Those who reject it are not moral. They're naive. Every government, religion, and empire has survived through manipulation cloaked as virtue. You must do the same, but smarter, cleaner, and colder. Power rewards subtlety. Remember this, you can't control the world until you first control the lens through which the world sees you. Number 9, ruthless. Self-mastery, becoming the weapon. Before you can control others, you must first conquer yourself. The Machiavellian mind begins its empire within. Self-mastery is not optional. It's the foundation of all control, all dominance, all power that lasts. The weak man reacts. The disciplined man designs. Every emotion, every desire, every impulse that owns you becomes a chain around your throat. The moment you can't command yourself, you're already someone else's puppet. To master yourself, you must become ruthless with your habits, your thoughts, and your time. Discipline isn't punishment. It's purification. It burns away weakness until only clarity remains. You wake before others, think sharper than others, move slower, but strike harder. You train your body not for vanity, but for control. You train your mind not for comfort, but for command. Your discipline must be absolute, because in a world of chaos, the calm man becomes king. Every distraction, every indulgence, every wasted hour must die. Self-control is your weapon. Consistency is your armor. Most men live as slaves to dopamine. They chase pleasure, validation, and noise. You, however, must starve your weakness until silence feels like strength. Every temptation you resist feeds your power. Every emotion you master extends your reach. When anger rises, you observe it. When fear appears, you face it without retreat. When doubt whispers, you let it speak, and then bury it beneath logic. The Machiavellian warrior doesn't eliminate emotion. He commands it like a general. Commands an army. Rage becomes focus. Pain becomes fuel. Loneliness becomes solitude. Even heartbreak becomes refinement. You use everything. Waste nothing. To the outside world, you appear emotionless. But beneath the surface, there's fire. Contained. Controlled. Unstoppable. The man who controls his emotions becomes unpredictable. The man who controls his reactions becomes untouchable. That is the secret of cold power, to remain composed under pressure while others lose themselves in chaos. You must also control your image. Never reveal too much. Never seek validation. Never over-explain. Every mystery builds curiosity. Every silence builds authority. You speak less, but when you do, people listen. You look unshaken, even when everything inside you burns. That's mastery. You are the storm that smiles. Comment below, I am my greatest weapon. Because when you master yourself, you no longer need to chase control. It radiates from you. People feel it in your tone, your posture, your decisions. Self-mastery makes you magnetic because it's rare. The disciplined man stands out in a generation drowning in comfort. You must be willing to do what others won't, to sacrifice comfort for clarity, pleasure for purpose, reaction for restraint. That's the Machiavellian difference. You are not trying to be good. You are trying to be powerful, and power demands control. Every moment of discipline plants the seeds of future dominance. One day when others crumble under stress, you'll remain calm, collected, and strategic. Because while they were reacting, you were refining. The man who owns himself owns his fate. The man who controls his impulses commands destiny itself. Self-mastery isn't glamorous. It's silent warfare against your lower self. You win that war. Every morning you rise with purpose. Every night you rest with precision. In time, you'll stop needing to prove yourself because your presence will speak what words cannot. You will have become the weapon, sharp, composed, and unbreakable. Number 6. The untouchable mind. Ascend beyond power. When you reach the final stage of mastery, power no longer excites you. Control does, not over others, but over yourself, your environment, and your destiny. The untouchable mind is the mind that transcends reaction, validation, and dependence. It moves in silence, acts with precision, and leaves no trace of emotion behind. The Machiavellian who ascends beyond power understands that the world is a battlefield of illusions, and the only true victory is not being moved by any of them. People will test you, betray you, envy you, but none of it will touch you because your identity no longer depends on the opinions or emotions of others. You operate from calm detachment, commanding outcomes without needing applause. This is the ultimate freedom to act without seeking reward, to influence without attachment, to exist above the noise of lesser minds. The untouchable man knows that everything external is temporary, status, wealth, even loyalty. But the inner empire once built cannot be conquered. You are no longer playing the game. You are the board on which it's played. You see the moves before they happen. And when chaos unfolds, you remain unmoved, watching as others fall apart, trying to predict your next step. This is not arrogance, it's transcendence through control. Every insult becomes irrelevant. Every challenge becomes an opportunity. Every loss becomes a lesson. You are immune to manipulation because your desires are no longer visible. You've learned to want nothing yet attract everything. The world bends to those who bend to nothing. Comment below, I am untouchable, because that phrase isn't arrogance. It's awareness. It's knowing that when your mind can't be shaken, your reality can't be broken. The untouchable mind is cold but calm, silent but strategic, humble but dominant. You no longer react to disrespect. You erase the offender through indifference. You no longer prove your worth. You embody it. You no longer chase outcomes. You create them. And when the world finally realizes it cannot control you, it begins to respect you. This is where true power lives, not in domination, but in self-command. Remember this final lesson. Kings fall, empires fade, but the mind that governs itself never loses its throne. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because this is Machiavellian mode, and your evolution into power has only just begun.